Boy, have we got some new tool news / drama here for you. A new card got played yesterday in the whole government regulating table saw safety using the SawStop technology game that's going on. This is a major play, and I want to give you some insider information, stuff I've gleaned from talking to people off the record who are in the industry and giving you an idea about what's going on. Because this kind of safety, I mean, a lot of people don't like to see government regulating stuff, but there are a lot of injuries, and safety is a primary concern. And speaking of safety, I want to thank today's sponsor, and that is Aura. You ever think about all the people out there looking around, peeking at your personal stuff online? They're like a bunch of nosy Nellies, all these data brokers out there peeking out behind the curtains, watching everything you're doing online, scraping all that information, and then they're selling it. And they're selling it to spammers and scammers and who knows who else online or on the dark web or wherever. And you know what? They've got your full name, they got your email, they got your address, they got your folks' address. And it's like all of our personal privacy kind of stuff is just hanging out on the line out back and everyone's watching it. Well, I did a search on myself. Actually, it was the missus. She did a search on herself. She's like, you got to find out what's out there about you. I did a search, and it was frightening in what I found. I found all, like, legit every single address I've ever lived at, going all the way back to when I first moved out on my own. And that was a while ago. That was before the internet, and they still had it all. It was all out there. And then right after that, there was a streak of YouTubers who were getting their channels hacked because they'd gotten too much data online. People figured out all this kind of stuff, and they were stealing their accounts, and who knows, bank accounts, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, we got to do something. I got to do something about this. I got to have some sort of level of responsibility here. I got to be watching out for my data, for my wife's data, my family's data. We got to do something. And the very next week, who shows up but Aura? And they reach out to me and say, hey, we'd like to work with you on this. And I don't know about you, but I'm of that age and have that kind of life experience that I know when something's being set out in front of me. This is something that's meant for me. And I said, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I would love to talk to you about this. And so I did, and I hooked up with them. And I got to tell you, I feel just like the weight of the world got lifted off of me. They're out there scraping all these sites and taking my data off of it and making my life and my family's life that much safer. I mean, it's like I knew this is what I needed. They're like my online watchdog out there just barking at everyone, getting rid of them. And you know what? It makes sure that, like, all those trolls and in the dark web and whatnot, that at least it makes it harder. You know, it makes it impossible for the legit people to get my data because they tell them to take it down, and that makes it harder for the dark web types to find it. And that makes me feel better. And there's more to Aura than just, personal data protection kind of stuff. They have antivirus, VPNs, password management, a whole host of online tools to help keep you safe in this online world, as it were. I think of it like going around locking up your house at night. You got to make sure all your doors are locked, windows are shut, and whatnot before you go to sleep. Well, you should be doing the same stuff online, and Aura helps you do that. And there's more to Aura than just stopping data brokers. They have a whole host, suite of online tools, as they call it. Let me check the list. They got antivirus, VPN, password management, you name it. And then you don't have to do with a whole bunch of different an app for this, an app for this, an app for that. They just bundle it all up into one big thing, and they do it at an affordable price, especially compared to, the other people out there offering similar kind of things. Anyway, if you're interested in giving it a try, go over to aura.com/DenaTools, and they're going to hook you up with a 2-week free trial so you can try it for yourself, give it a test drive, see if it's for you. And trust me, it's a smart move, folks. Stay safe out there. All right, let's jump back into it. So if you hadn't heard, this has been going on for over a decade. SawStop invented the technology. Nobody wanted to buy it. So they started their own company, and they tried to get the government then to regulate it, to mandate this stuff. And the government has been looking at this. They've had this committee set up to look at this for over a decade now. And all the major manufacturers, they went and they set up not one but 2 different nonprofit groups or whatever to try and petition the government to tell them, no, this is ridiculous. We can't do this. It would be insanely expensive. SawStop owns the patents. They're just trying to force this because they want money in their pockets, yada, yada, yada. The major players in the government in the industry have spent millions and millions of dollars lobbying the government. And of course, SawStop's on their side doing the same thing with not nearly as deep a wallets. And of course, the big winner here has been, government employees. Anyway, the point is this, that it's been going on for over a year and they have just been completely dead. It's not going anywhere. And then suddenly in the past year, the government's like, this might be a good idea. We should move forward on it. And I think a lot of people have been taking this as, well, SawStop's finally won. That's not the bent I get from this. But let's go through the card that just recently got played. I don't want to hold that up any longer for you. So what recently happened is this. SawStop issued a notice saying, SawStop to dedicate the U.S. patent to public upon effective date of a rule requiring safety technology in all saws. What does that mean in English? Well, what SawStop is essentially saying is that the key patent that's behind their flush sensing technology, they will give up ownership and donate it to the public. So no other company will own it or have it or anything else. They'll just give it up and make it public access. And then anybody can make a saw with this kind of technology. And this seems like a huge win. Just an amazing kind of win for everybody involved, right? Well, there's a whole lot more going on here we got to talk about. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is Stuart over at Tool Guide. Now, it's funny because I was just talking about him yesterday. He was on top of this. He has a whole article out about this, talking about what he feels are the issues and stuff. And I think, honestly, the only thing that I differ from Stuart on is I think I'm just a little more jaded when it comes to government and corporations than he is. But he goes through and he talks about all, and I'll put a link to this. But there's one part in here where he talks about the other companies that have come back. DeWalt's been complaining. Bosch, they had the React saw. They're now saying it would take them 6 years to redevelop it. And Harbor Freight said that their suppliers don't even know how to develop flush sensing technology. Basically, what they're saying is, if you mandate this, we can't even sell stuff. That's all the budget people, essentially, because most of them are OEMing it from somebody else. That basically these cheap saw companies don't even know how to do it, and you put them all out of business because they don't know how to develop it. And if you've been a friend of the channel, I love me some Harbor Freight. I know a lot of the people over there. They're good people. It's a great company, but I just gotta say, guys, didn't you just say that your tools are designed in Calabasas, California, out of our state-of-the-art design center, built by our industry's leading manufacturers of tools? So many. That's the whole point. Harbor Freight's been upping their game, coming out with Bauer and with Hercules and Atlas and all these other, Vulcan and all these great brands that they're developing. But most of the higher end stuff is designed in-house, and then they hire someone to build it. So it's not that nobody cares whether these companies know how to design it. Harbor Freight should know how to design it, because this has been something that's been going on for years. Patents don't last forever, okay? They eventually expire. And the reality is this patent's not based on anything special. It's capacitive touch. For those of you, I'm in my mid-50s. For those of you as old as me or older, you probably remember this. Yeah, you remember those old brass touch lamps that came out with in the 80s? These things, besides being god-awful ugly, were a lot of fun. And the way it works is any metallic part of that light, and I think there was like even a metallic foil imprint on the glass. So you could just touch any part of your lamp and it would turn on or turn off. In the same way you touch your cell phone. That's a capacitive touch. It basically leverages the electric charge going between your hand and your body and the item to register contact. In fact, we used to have lots of fun as kids. We'd see how many people we could string together. One person would grab the lamp, the next person would grab them, would turn the lamp off, the next person would grab them, but the lamp would turn on. We could get like, on one lamp, we were able to get like 17 people to touch it, and before we lost capacitive there. Anyway, the point isn't the old lamps. The point is there's nothing truly special about the technology as far as the sensing goes. Now, what they do is they have a patent that says if you take that tech, sorry about that, if you take, get back there. The thing about the patent is if you take that tech and you put it in a saw, that's essentially what the patent is. But if that patent goes away, capacitive touch isn't anything all that hard. Now, Bosch, they said, well, we had our React saw and we got sued for putting it out. You think you did it right in the middle of the patent. But we feel it would take us 6 years and it would be, immensely expensive. And yeah, when they put this thing out, it was $1,500. It was not an inexpensive saw. And honestly, it wasn't all that great of a saw. But the reality is the tech in it, they even did something that SawStop didn't do, which is they just used cartridges. Now, SawStop has a thing where it's a brake and a cartridge. So not only does it drop the blade, but it stops the blade and ruins the blade in the process. Now, I think there's anybody who would like to see SawStop's style of patent used across the board, it would be Diablo and other blade manufacturers, because that would double or triple their sales. Because once that brake hits, that blade is ruined. On the other hand, with the Bosch technology, in fact, every other attempt and other technology that I've seen where people try to work this out, there's another tech that basically uses camera sensings to tell where there's a human and when their hand gets close. And all they do is they drop the blade. You don't have to break. The blade doesn't need to be stopped if it can drop fast enough. And in all these technologies, even SawStop's own technology, it drops fast enough that the brake isn't really needed. So they've already figured this out. In fact, I've spoken to several people in the industry who said point blank, every single company knows that at some point this technology is the patent for this technology is going to expire. In fact, it honestly already should have. SawStop's original patents have expired. They keep filing extensions because the founder of SawStop is a patent attorney. All right. And granted, he sold it to, Festool, and Festool's now running it. And so, but I'm guessing he's still got a financial investment in the company because he's still actively involved in protecting the patents. It's what he does. And he's created this giant spider web of interconnected patents that draw on each other. So even if one expires, then there's 2 or 3 to back that one up. The question is the validity of those patents, and they have to all be tried in court. That's the only way. There's no kind of thing out there that says, hey, this is the date. Okay, that patent's good to go. Basically, what happens is people always file extensions, and now you've got to challenge those extensions to see if those extensions should have been granted in the first place or whether they're valid. This becomes a huge, huge thing. Now, we're talking about the patent that they're looking to give up here. And let's take a look at that real quick. This is U.S. patent 9724840, okay? Now, this actually might be the extension of the patent because this is B2, so it's not the primary patent. I am not a patent attorney. I don't pretend to be a patent attorney. Machines with safety systems are disclosed. The machine may take the form of a woodworking machine. Yeah, they try to describe the machine. But basically, at the end of the day, and look at this. This is all the other stuff that it references. These are ridiculous. In fact, how many patents does SawStop own? Well, on a basic patent search, just searching for SawStop as the owner of it, not other ones that have been filed under other people's names, there are, I think it was 150 or so. Let me go here. That's page 2. Let's go to page 3. 130 currently on file just under SawStop's name. They've got a metric ton of patents. So here's my breakdown, and bear with me on this one. So basically what you got is you got SawStop, the company, that said, hey, we think the government should mandate this because we think it's what people need. And I don't think they're wrong, and I think at some level they're sincere, but they also want to get paid. And honestly, I don't blame them at this point because Win Gas, that's the guy who founded it, when he invented this, He went out and patented it. He's a patent attorney. That's what he does. And he went to every single manufacturer, and they all turned him down. In the same way seatbelts were turned down originally. They said no one's going to pay for this. No one's going to pay for this. But he's like, I think people will, and people have, honestly. SawStop came out by making a premium product. A lot of people are trying to say, well, if this this rule gets passed, the government mandates this, the prices for saws are going to go through the roof. I don't think that's necessarily true. Okay, here's the deal. SawStop had, the only way they could remain profitable was he couldn't mass manufacture cheap saws. When you make cheaper things, the profit margin is smaller. You have to have a large market share or be able to just shovel stuff out at that point. He was a small manufacturer doing this on a relatively shoestring budget. He had to make a premium saw so he could charge a premium price so he could get the same kind of margin somebody with a much cheaper saw gets. Now, as they've grown and they've gotten bigger and bigger, that's changed, and they've come out with less expensive and less expensive saws. I think the cheapest saw they made, $800 or $900. But that, again, it's a compact job site table saw, but it's a premium compact job site table saw. If Ryobi wanted to make the same thing, I think it might add as much as probably maybe $50 to it. And as manufacturing goes along, it'll get cheaper and cheaper to the point where it's like a couple bucks, because going back to it, the technology involved. I mean, Bosch was able to do this with just a pair of cartridges, and these cartridges, those were 2 fires, so it could trip twice with one cartridge. I think they sold for like $100, and so basically each trip of it was $50, which I think the SawStop cartridge is something like $150 or something like that. But the point is this, and you lose your blade. But the point is this, that was Bosch doing this in 2015 and hadn't really established any kind of market share. Now, if everyone's doing this, the price is going to go down. They're going to be competitive. And on top of it, they all have been designing these saws, if not manufacturing them, for a decade at this point. They knew this thing was going to expire. And once they saw SawStop make a market for this, they knew it was something they wanted. And on top of that, there's other lawsuits out now against companies that have been suing companies because they don't have the technology, because they're saying companies know this is unsafe. You're caught between a rock and a hard place at that point. Either get the technology and pay SawStop or don't get the technology. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't think that SawStop is doing this because they're not doing it out of their own goodwill. If they wanted to do it out of their goodwill, as Stewart had said, they would have already released it and said, fine, you can make them. We'll just make them better with our other patents. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to protect those other patents. They're saying that what their idea is, if we give this out, then the government won't mandate that we get rid of the rest of them, because that's something the government can do. The government can say, you know what, we're regulating this. We're passing this regulation. Everyone has to have this tech. And in order to make it available, we are going to do, I don't know if they call it eminent domain on intellectual property, but they're going to take that intellectual property and they're going to say that the government owns it and they're going to give it to everyone. So this I think, is a move by SawStop to protect the remaining parts of their patents so they can stay, so that everyone will have this, but they'll stay a step ahead. That's kind of what they want to do. Kind of like the same way Tesla is like, okay, everyone's else making electric cars. We're just making electric cars better than everyone else. And I think that's where SawStop wants to be. They want to be the Tesla of table saws. And that's a great place for them to be, especially considering that they're owned by Festool now. It's kind of where they already are. I don't think this is going to be, I don't think your $200 table saw is suddenly going to become a $500 table saw. I don't see that happening. The market won't bear it. There will always be somebody else coming out and doing it cheaper and trying to do it better and cheaper. And I think that's the whole point of a free market. Honestly, I think SawStop has played this way too far at this point. I do think that, I get you're pissed at these companies. They turned you away. I think you punished them enough. I think we need to move forward. I do think this technology should be in every table saw. Do I want the government regulating it? Not a big fan of government regulations. Do I think that they should invalidate the basic patent from SawStop? Yeah, I think it's had its run. It's had over 20 years. It's been protected. I think at this point they're just milking it for all it's worth, and I think that's wrong as well. I think everyone here is wrong. In fact, and these companies who are sitting there going, "Oh, we don't want this mandated because it's going to cost us a bunch of money." I don't think they're being honest either. I think they are sitting there going, no, we really actually want you to mandate this now, which is why the government is suddenly moving forward on this. They want it mandated, but they want to be able to go, oh, we had to do this, and it's SawStop's fault, and the government made us do it. We're sorry we have to double the cost of your saw, even though we developed it 10 years ago and producing prototypes for the last 7 years and totally know how to do this and already costed the whole thing out. Yeah. I think everyone's playing a game here. I don't think there is a good guy. I think it's just a bunch of bad guys trying to pretend that it's the other person's fault. That's my takeaway. Maybe I'm just too jaded. Let me know if you think I'm wrong down in the comments. I will say this. Power tools are dangerous. Be safe. And speaking of safety, I want to thank today's sponsor. That is Aura. Of course, go check them out. Get your free trial. Digital safety is becoming a huge thing going forward with AI and all the other search engines out there, just digging up everything. You want to keep yourself and your family safe. Go check them out. Links, of course, are down below. That's all I got for you today. Let me know what you think down below. While you're down there, don't chomp the old like button. Smash the subscribe. Ring the bell on the way out. You all take care. God bless. And as always, shine on.